Welcome everyone to this video for Stencil School featuring some pages in my art journal. I'm using my Doodle vocab stencils to create some high contrast collage papers. As my base or substrate, I'm just using some book text, and I'm using a nice kind of soft body black opaque paint. I've got this blending tool from Ranger that I like to use to stencil with. And I'm just going to create some marks onto this book page, and then I'm going to saturate it with water to try to get that black paint to kind of run and give me a nice grunge effect. To get the paint to run, I really have to work quickly. I can't have the paint dry before I spray it with water. And I might have to spray it and really saturate it a lot to get that black paint to run. I've repeated the process with this other stencil, and I'm giving it the same dousing of water. While my high contrast collage papers dry, I'm going to start another set of papers. I'm just starting with a graphite pencil scribble on two different types of paper here. Next, I'm grabbing a Caran Neocolour 2 in Indigo and adding some scribbles with that, along with another Caran Neocolour 2 in English Red with some marks and lines. Next, it's a Dylusions ink spray in Bubblegum Pink. I'm just adding a few spots of this, and then I'm going to hit both papers with a nice saturation of water, spraying from this repurposed bottle. The water really gets the inks to flow and activates the water-soluble crayons. Smushing these two pieces together preserves a bunch of that color and gets everything to kind of spread out a little more. Once all of the ink and water is dry, I'm going to add some layering with stencils. First of all, I'm adding these two colors of paint together on my blending tool through one of my Doodle vocab stencils. You saw this one earlier with the high contrast collage papers. The next layer is going to be a pink stenciling layer, and I'm mixing these two paints together through this stencil. All the stencils that I'm using are going to be listed in the description box below. My next stencil layer is with these two paints, and I'm using my Doodle vocab stencil again. You probably noticed that with each of these stencil layers, I used two paints and blended them together as I was stenciling. This way, I get a variety of color in the different stencil marks that I'm making. And I can actively choose to use one or the other color to make my next marks. If I want it lighter, I just go into the lighter blue. The next stenciling layer is white, and this will give us some contrast and help those colors underneath to pop. With my collage materials ready, I am all set to start my art journal spread. And I'm going to start it by adding some of this high contrast collage material as the first layer. I'm using matte medium and kind of a funky brush to adhere my pieces to the page. I brush down some of the matte medium, apply my collage piece, and then I apply a little bit more of the matte medium on top of it and burnish it down into the page. In terms of composition, I'm really not concerned at all. I just want to get a few of these pieces down as kind of like a foundation. You could think of it as like the frame of a house or the structure underneath something, kind of like the skeleton. It's going to provide some contrast way down in that first layer. And not much of it may even appear in the end, but it helps give a richness and depth to the pages. My next layer is going to be kind of a unifying layer. I'm spreading this Nougat Fresco finish paint by Paper Artsy over the entire spread. I mean, I'm not covering every speck of it, but I am covering most of it. Then I'm using a wipe to take some of it off of that high contrast collage layer. Next is a layer of water-soluble media. First, I'm adding that Caran Neocolour 2 in Indigo, followed by the English Red. And then I'm going to use this Dylusions spray in Funky Fuchsia. I like to add water in a spray to get everything to activate and flow, but this is my art journal, so I am going to blot this time. And since a lot of my color came away with my paper towel, I'm going to spray through a stencil to put some of that color back. Once this layer of water-soluble media is dry, I'm going to add a collage layer. I'm going to add some of my colorful stencil layered collage paper. I'm just adding these pieces in kind of a horizon across the pages. This adds some color and detail and starts creating the composition for my pages. To really integrate those collage pieces into my spread though, I'm going to add this Paper Artsy Fresco Finish paint in Pixie Dust. I'm going to cover the edges of the collage, even where they connect, and I'm going to put this feathered color into some parts of my spread. This kind of unifies everything and tames things down a little bit so that I can add something else if I like. And for me, what I add is often some fluorescent pink of some kind. This Dina gloss paint that comes in a dropper is super fun to play with. I just drip some from the top edge and apply some water from a spray bottle to get it to spread out. And it gives me just what I'm looking for in terms of interest, color, and randomness. I did the same thing to the other side of my spread, and now I'm ready for the next layer. These colors and this stencil will be familiar to you because I used them in my collage papers. And I was really liking how that greeny yellow was showing up in my background on those papers. And I wanted to bring it out a little bit more. So I'm adding it to the spread as a finishing mark in that color that I'm really loving. I'm also repeating that white layer with the same stencil into my spread. With the background done, it's just a matter of kind of finishing the spread in a way that I like. I like to add some scribbly lines to kind of frame the spread on either side. So I'm using that same Neocolour 2 in Indigo for this. I can even trace some of those original lines. Adding a scribble of graphite pencil adds a little more interest as well. And then some splatter with a Lyra graphite stick and some water on a watercolor brush. And finally, to add kind of my focal imagery, I just created these colorful ribbons across the pages, and I'm adding my little word phrase, which was a found text from a book that says, "The illumination contained the shape." Thank you for watching this episode of Stencil School with me and my art journal. I hope that you will visit me again on my channel and check out these stencils from StencilGirl products. For all the product names for the stencils that I used, be sure to check out the description box below.